Whether you're a teen or 30-something, we see too much sucker shit going on in the world. Not enough of us are sharing the script to help us all do better for ourselves. Enjoy this unfiltered, no bullshit game about how to survive and thrive in your Black awesomeness. Come through, listen, and think with the Queen.
Ready? Let's get started. First, if you can, tell me a little bit about your background and like how you got on your enlightened path. I would say.
Sure. Uh, so my name is Christiandre. And I don't know, it was kind of an interesting journey. So since I was ever since I can remember, probably 3 years old, I always asked, I was a why girl, right? So I always asked my mom tons of questions, where did we come from? Where did she come from? Where did he come from? And then she would always say God. And I'm like, well, where did he come from? And she could never really give an answer. And so over time, I would just kind of like these little things that I never really got a definitive answer on. I would just bank it in my subconscious mind and be like, okay, we'll figure that out later. And over time, these little unresolved questions kind of build up in your subconscious mind. And then you kind of have these aha moments or these epiphany moments where you might hear something from someone else over here, and you might be watching something, on a video over here, or hear a song lyric, and then it just kind of all like pieces itself together, and you kind of get these answers. And then it's kind of like, the thought that I have is like a monkey swinging from branches of a tree, right? So it's like you've got one piece of information, you're like, oh, I got it. But then as you're like sliding along with that knowledge, there's like another branch that kind of reaches its hand out, and you latch onto that, and you just keep kind of going. And the more that you keep digging, and the more that you keep asking questions. So a Bible verse is, ask and you shall receive, knock and the door will be open to you. The more that you keep knocking and the more that you keep asking, the more these serendipitous things would happen, right? These synchronicities will happen, whether it's people who come into your life that give you more information that takes you to another level. And so that's always kind of happened to me since I was really young. There was 2 periods of time that I had very profound spiritual awakening experiences. And what's funny is when I tried to figure out what that was or how that happened, I just knew information that I had never studied before. We didn't grow up in a religious household. We were low income. So my mom had, ducking and dodging from abusive boyfriends. And, we lived in her car for a period of time, just trying for her to get stability and things of that nature. That we didn't grow up in a religious household. So my first 7 years of life, we were always on the go. Kind of whatever we could fit in a garbage bag is what we had with us. And then we would just kind of roll out from there. And, she was just trying to find stability. And so, we didn't really have like an indoctrination that we had when I was little. She met my stepdad when I was 8, and then we kind of, they were still low income, but together they kind of built us out of poverty, and had some form of stability in the household. But those 2 profound spiritual awakening experiences. One was in January of 2009, and then the other one was September of 2013. Now, right before January 2009, the grandmother I was closest to, my mother's mom, had passed away. So she passed away September 24th, 2008. And then I was questioning, did she go to heaven? Again, we didn't grow up religious, but I had people when I went away to college, and then my ex and his family, they were Southern Baptist. So this concept of like heaven and hell, and we'd always have these deep conversations about, what does it take to go to heaven? and the way that we were raised was just kind of like treat everybody the golden rule, right? Treat everyone how you wish to be treated, and do no harm to anyone else. And that's how you should live your life. And then I'm hearing these concepts of, if Mother Teresa didn't go to heaven, good works alone will not save you. And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, you have to pray like this. Jesus said you have to pray like this or you don't go to heaven. Jesus says you must say out of your mouth, confess with your mouth that Jesus died for your sins, or you don't go to heaven. And I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. What's going on? So I was really concerned that the woman that I love the most, my Mima, did she go to heaven? And she lived her life now. Okay. She was married 7 times in the 60s. She had 3 kids by 3 different men. Like she did her thing.
Right. Right.
So I'm like, oh my God, Mima's not in heaven. I'm never gonna see her again. And so I was talking to my ex's father, who knows the word, like he knows the word in and out of the Bible. And I'm asking him, I'm like, did she go to heaven? And he's like, why are you asking me these questions? You need to learn the Bible for yourself. And he gives me this like Cliff Note book. I still have it. I'm looking over on my bookshelf where I got it. But
in the library.
in my library,
Yeah.
with the book of John. And he was like, you need to find these answers for yourself. So I started digging in the Bible, I was like, I got to learn the Bible. They say it takes 5 years intensively to learn it, but I'm going to learn it. And the more that I kept digging, though, the more the information was just what different spiritualists told me after all this stuff happened. And I'm like, what happened? Am I crazy? And they're like, girl, don't ever say that. You are not crazy. They said I was being downloaded with the information, right? So they're like, you're knocking, you're asking, and so you're getting slammed with this information, but you're not satisfied. So you keep asking. So they just slamming you with more and more and more information. And I was just boom, boom. I was taking it like a champ. I'm like, give me some more, hit me again. And I was just absorbing all this information. And so that first time that it happened, January 2009, it was a couple of weeks where I just knew information. Again, like I said, I never studied before, but it was from a biblical standpoint. And it was just kind of like a mixture of ancient knowledge topics. It's almost like if you ever watched like Ancient Aliens / the missing books of the Bible on like the History Channel or whatever those different channels are. If you like did a crash course on all of those things at one period of time and learned it all within a 2-week period of time. That's the knowledge that I had somehow access to, and I was tapped in. And but when you do that, which I learned after the fact, when you're doing that, what's happening energetically is that your crown chakra is wide open. So you're getting able to access this divinely cataloged information directly into your brain. And when you do that, and you're not shutting it down, you're not learning how to harness your energy fields of your body and ground yourself, what happens is your crown chakra is wide open and you're slammed with information, which it compresses all of your other chakras in your body. So your base of your root chakra, your sacral, your solar plexus chakras, those ones are all shut down, while your crown chakra is wide open, or your third eye is wide open. And so you're ungrounded. And that's kind of how my reality in this world was presenting itself. I was ungrounded. I was not sleeping. I was just like ideas, speaking like super fast. I'm like, yeah, but don't you get it? There's this here and there's this there. And I'm trying to synthesize it for people. And everyone's like, she sounds very fascinating. That is Christy. But like, what's going on here? And then when it happened again in September 2013, that's really when I started digging for answers. Like, okay, initially people just assume that first time that it happened, maybe it was just like some kind of rewiring of the brain from her grandmother passing and the trauma and stress of that. And poor thing, she's going to have to learn how to, deal with tragedy. And when it happened in September 2013, it was like, wait a minute, I was tapped into completely different knowledge, quantum physics, pi, phi, the arithmetic of life. Now I was decent in math, but baby, that was not my forte. I was a language arts person. Like like the most science I did in my undergrad was science for liberal arts majors, right? So it was like, okay, how did she know this stuff? Like, what is going on? And very interesting story. Like, we can get into that another time or today if you wanted, but of how I was led to these different experts in different fields, right? Shamans, Reiki masters. I was never really into psychics prior to that. Psychics, intuitives, mediums, star seeds, like all this terminology that I was never really into or really knew much about and was a huge skeptic. And all these different gurus then it swerved into like stuff that I kind of knew about, like 33rd degree Masons and former naval intelligence and like all these different ranks and of people who were telling me different pieces of the puzzle of the story of who I am, how the world works, how I was able to tap into this knowledge, what this knowledge was that I was even tapping into and what that's called. And this notion that you are not crazy and you are not the only one, that there are others who have these skills and abilities, who have harnessed these skills and abilities, and then why I was able to access this knowledge. So I know that's a very long-winded answer.
No.
But it kind of gives it very interesting context to kind of how I even became interested in holistic health, in studying holistic health, and then bridging the science behind health and the way the world is with this spiritual side of things, and how the two are actually interconnected and how they actually play off of and work with each other. You can't have one without the other. And the first time that I had that hyperspeed spiritual awakening experience, I was working in a university. It was my second job out of college, and it was in a university. And then I continued to work at the university to this day. So almost 11 years I've worked in the university setting. And you deal with people in the university. You've got the philosophical side that teaches the spiritual, but I was in the College of Medicine. So I was dealing with Western trained physicians who, this is how things work, and this is what's evidence-based versus not, and anything that's not deemed evidence-based, you throw it out. And then through my own health issues, my family, growing up in cycles of poverty, where when you live in poverty, you're just plagued by certain things. There's all kinds of mental health conditions that go undiagnosed, and so people self-medicate or they try to deal with it on their own, in their own terms. You have lack, right? So your basic needs are not met. You don't have security, you don't have support and structure, so you're not getting regular income. You might not know if that's your last meal that you're going to eat. You don't know when your next meal's coming. You don't know, for my mom, like, who's going to watch your kids, but you got to work to make money, but you don't have anyone to watch the kids. So now you're bringing your kids to a pub where you're waitressing because you can, and living in a car. The times we lived in a car, we didn't have a house to live in, so we couldn't get on welfare because you have to have an address to get food stamps and welfare. And then the times we did have a place to stay, we didn't have a car, so we had to walk everywhere. So when you're in that survival mode, there's just certain things that you learn. There's coping mechanisms. You learn how to be resilient. You learn how to live with what you have, with the basics, and to accept that, right? And I think coming up with that type of a background, it helps you to be more open and receptive to these things that happen to me later in life. But you also have cycles of abuse, physical and mental abuse, verbal abuse. You have cycles of people who have mental health conditions, depression, other mental health conditions that they don't know how to cope. I had an uncle and an aunt who both committed suicide. I have my aunt and my grandmother, the one that passed away, who had heart attacks in their 40s. My aunt at 41, she died of a massive heart attack. So you don't have access to healthcare. You don't have access to knowledge about how things can even transfer from one generation to the next, the traumas, right? So the intergenerational traumas, and how that transfers into the DNA of the next offspring. So, these health issues, I'm a big numbers person. As I'm talking, where I'm at, it's 444. So, hey, 444 means your angels are with you. So I'm like, yes, y'all are guiding me on what I got to say, even though I'm rambling at the mouth.
No.
But what happens is that stuff transfers over. And so thankfully, I was born gifted, is what they'll call it in school, but I learned very quickly. I'm able to learn concepts very easily, very quickly, at a pace faster than my siblings. And when my mom met my stepdad, he was like, how come this girl's coming home from school in the 3rd grade without homework? Like, he thought I was like a bad kid. He's like, she's a good kid, but we're going to this teacher parent conference. We're going to find out Christy ain't doing her schoolwork. And the teacher's like, we love Christy. She's great. She's amazing. Her schoolwork is thorough. And he's like, how? She don't have homework. They're like, I don't know. She does it in class. Like, I finished it in school. Like, I would redo it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. My mathematical the times tables or my cursive, like over and over and over again, because I was bored. And he was like, all right, he was the one person who actually went to college. Everyone else in my family had, gotten pregnant, dropped out, or joined the forces and, Air Force or Marines. And so this was somebody finally that had gone to college and, has a college degree. And so, he was just like, all right, I know a little something about something, like this girl right here. Like, if y'all don't challenge her, she's going to be just like the rest of her family. She's going to get bored. She's going to get pregnant. She's going to drop out early. So y'all need to challenge her. Like, you guys need to test her for gifted or something. And so in the third grade, on his urging, I was tested for gifted and accepted into the program. But when you're in the gifted program, like, you learn, I was annoyed because now you're taking me out of class with everybody else and you putting me with this group of special kids who, have greater abilities, and you're giving us extra work to do. But now I got homework to do. I don't like that. I like to play outside. I like to go climb the trees and stuff. And now I got to come home and do some homework. Like, what the hell? And then as I got older, like in high school, you realize, I mean, a lot of the kids that were in my gifted program in high school, baby, the things, some of them have been on How to Catch a Predator. Ooh. Not for anything good. It just comes with it like this, I guess, like a level of entitlement. A lot of them kind of came from more affluent families, so I guess you got more at your disposal, so you got more things to be bored about. I don't really know.
I think their whole, what they teach is different because they don't have to worry about money, so their whole nurture and all that is a whole completely different from people that have starved, who have struggled coming up. So
yep. And it was evident, and they would even negotiate with the teacher, like, hey, we're the smart kids, we don't need to do vocab words. And I'm like, my daddy and mommy, they bought, like, back then, you had the door-to-door salesman, so they had a Encyclopedia Britannica. So they like invested. My parents were like, we broke, like, we rolling pennies after our spaghetti dinner on Sunday to get through the week, but we gonna buy from this door-to-door salesman this Encyclopedia Britannica, and we're going to make these kids, we had to do 5 to 10 words every night, vocab words out of the dictionary of it. And then we had to learn a different topic. So they were just big on making sure that we expanded our knowledge base.
That's good.
And that we, because for them, they struggled. So they're like, they don't want their offspring to struggle. And their thing was, my stepdad's thing was the paper. They cannot take your paper away from you. And what papers are those? They cannot take, his thing was, you need to have insurance. You need to have health insurance and life insurance. His thing was, you need to have established credit. And you need to get a degree, at least a high school diploma, beyond that, or a GED. And then their thing was college. Like, no, you're going to college. Like, for them, the definition of success was college, because if you have that paper, it opens more doors for you than if you don't, because that was their life experience.
Right.
And so it was just like college, no boys, no dating. And so that's what I put that on a pedestal in the third grade. I said, I'm going to be the president. And I randomly said 2024, and that's an election year. No, I don't think I'm running. So everybody relax. But so I strive, like, okay, I'm a female. There's no female presidents. I'm low income. There ain't no low income presidents. Like, you got to go to law school and you got to come up in a certain pipeline. So I always thought since the third grade, like, I got to get good grades because I have to be a lawyer, governor, so that I can become the president. And then so I've been studying the United States. I've been studying the systems. I've been studying how they came to be since I was in the third grade. On that vein, when you start studying a lot of that stuff and how that works, and you're trying to identify what's the best way to fix this system, what's the best way to make it fair and equitable for everybody, then you start realizing, no, like, this system was built how it was intentionally, and no matter which way you think you're gonna go up the chain to change it, you ain't changing this ironclad system. You could build a new one to replace it. You could build supplemental systems to help navigate through and around what's already there. But unless that system is dismantled and a new one's put in place, you ain't gonna be the one to go in and change the current system like it's doing what it was designed to do. So either know how it works and navigate through and around it, or help put all your energy into building a new one. So when this one becomes obsolete, this new one can come into place. So again, long-winded answer, but
I mean, you giving me that. I mean, you're answering other questions that are like coming up as you're talking. So it's awesome. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
yeah, so it's a lot. And so there's the systems and how they work. And I always thought, health, right? We're human beings. So at the end of the day, knowing how your body works, whether it's the mental health, whether it's the physical health, whether it's what causes heart attacks and how can you prevent that from happening, you start learning what of the system affects your well-being. And then you learn your well-being is not just physical, it's mental, which is bigger than the physical. It's mental, and then it's energetic or spiritual. If you want to call it spiritual, a lot of people feel weird about that word.
Do you think so? When you think about energy and spirit, you think of them together, like they're synonyms for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you cannot. So I then became focused on public health and health and well-being, larger groups. I'm always about the greatest good for the greatest number, so populations. And when I started researching public health, again, while I'm working in a university's College of Medicine and hearing all these lectures about health status and things of that nature, I thought for sure, okay, scrap being the president, I'm going to write health policy. Because when you write health policy, that's what dictates where the funding comes from and the laws come from, and the legislative process has to focus it all around whatever policies are implemented. And then when you start learning about the legislative process, you're like, oh, heck, no, that's going to take, no, that doesn't help anybody out either. What the heck?
Again, it was designed the way it is on purpose.
Yep. And so then I started researching with my own health issues that I had, again, working in a College of Medicine with these Western trained doctors who a lot of the things that were healing my own health issues, chronic inflammation, chronic stress markers in my blood work, that were manifesting in physical forms, pain on my rib cages, stomach issues, gastrointestinal issues, random stomach pains. And then different like neurological things like numbness and tingling in my legs and different things over time. The doctors that I worked with, they couldn't figure it out. They're just like, oh, it's your gallbladder. No, it's not. Oh, it's your, let's do your blood work. Well, the only thing we see wrong is you have low vitamin B12. Okay, so take vitamin B12, take it in this format, take it as a pill, take it as a dissolvable pill, take it in liquid form. And every 6 months I'd go back with different physical ailments. They do all different kind of tests. And the only thing that showed was the vitamin B12 was off. So I'm like, I don't understand how I could be taking and consuming something in all these different ways that you, the alleged expert, are telling me I have to take it, and it's still not being absorbed by my body. Like, what does that mean? And I had different people, again, serendipitous classmates or others who were just like, you should see a holistic doctor. I'm like, heck is that? So I'm like Googling holistic doctor Tampa. And I got in touch with this one guy who happened to be on Oprah, and he was on all kinds of things. He's actually a Western medicine trained OB-GYN. So he delivers babies at a local hospital. But he got cancer in the early 90s, and he hated the way his doctors treated him. They didn't do an in-depth like patient intake or know anything about him. They were very prescriptively or mechanically trying to treat his cancer. And he had a more spiritual upbringing. So he was like, this isn't resonating with me. He's like, I could cure this myself. So he wound up curing his cancer or ridding himself of his cancer on his own. And that put him onto doing a lot of training in Eastern medicine modalities, going to Egypt, going to India, Japan, China, learning all these different modalities and then incorporating it into what he now has a private practice called Mind, Body, Spirit Medicine. And so his patient intake, man, that thing was like an hour and a half long. Like you're sitting there and he's like, what's your first memory? How old were you? I was like, 3. He's like, how was your life? And he takes it from there. Like, what happened? What do you remember? Because all of that is intertwined, and through him, as well as the things I was studying at that time, as well as this was after that second spiritual awakening of September 2013. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Is it gonna happen again? I was with Reiki masters. I was becoming trained in becoming a Reiki energy healer. So I was learning about these concepts that my colleagues were saying are not evidence-based and hokey pokey. I'm like, how is it hokey pokey? Yet I'm coordinating a training program with 50 hospital presidents and directors of different specialties from a part of Gansu province, China, who comes here for 3 weeks to learn from us about how we run our hospitals and how we do things. But we're just giving a one-way transfer of information. We just telling them what they coming here to know, but y'all ain't sitting here engaging with them to learn from them what they're doing in China. And the practices, they're traditional Chinese and herbal medicine hospital president. Why aren't you sitting there getting information from him too? Yeah, he doesn't understand English that well, but I mean, we could do interpretive dance. Like they understood me, you know, like you just learn a couple of words.
That's a translator. That's an easy fix.
Oh, yeah. So I would do that, right? So I got in good friends with like who was the translator, who was also a nurse practitioner. And then with the doctors, I'd go to their hotel and hang out with them. I'd go to the dinners while they were here in town and just learn from them. And I'm like, oh, there's a science and scientific proof and evidence to what they doing over there. They're just curious about how we utilize technology. And they were most impressed with certain things like how much we depend on nurses here. They don't really have that there. So they're like, that's a great concept, like especially in their maternal hospital and their newborn hospitals, like let's get more nurses on staff to free up the physicians to be physicians and not do all the things a nurse does. So they were learning our best practices and taking them back, but we weren't learning from them. So I was getting hip to their game at the same time I'm going through my stuff. And it just made me realize, you know what, there's a science behind this. And the more that I explored the science of Eastern or ancient medicine, the more you start realizing everything has to do with energy. So the complex topics that I was tapping into in September of 2013, I'm looking over here because I have like a cork board that I've got like Nikola Tesla on there. I got Albert Einstein on there, and they have quotes that are like, if you understood the significance of the 3, 6, and the 9, then you know the keys to the universe. Or they say things like everything is a vibration. If you match the vibration to the reality that you want, that's the reality you'll get. And I was always like, what does that mean? Like, what is y'all talking about? Is this physics? Like, I clipped out of that stuff too. Like, what are you talking about? And so I'm looking over there at them because I keep things posted around my space. You see all my writings on the back.
You're a visual learner, aren't you?
It's not only that, but actually, you know what? I'm gonna grab this thing so y'all can see it. But I got this at like Ross for like $12 or something.
Oh yeah.
It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see, right? And so you can have a bunch of stuff, like me, I have a bunch of stuff sitting around the house, because when you're in deep thought, whatever you glance over and look at, that is preying on your subconscious mind. That is running in your background of your mind. So if you have positive imaging, if you have, positive messaging, positive imaging surrounding you at all times, then you have no choice but for that to be the seeds that are planted in your subconscious mind. And then that is the soil that you have in your mind for those ideas or for that focus to sprout. So I'm just saying all that because, as I'm like deep thought and I'm like, oh yeah, that right there. Oh, you know how to do foot reflexology. This spot on your foot keeps hurting. What organ is that? Oh, what emotion is tied to that organ? Oh, you never resolved the issues with your ex and you keep suppressing it and ignoring it like, whatever. I don't even want to deal or focus with that. And the more you suppress that emotion, the more it lodges in that particular organ. And then that's why you're having those digestive issues because you have unresolved anger with your ex. So then you have to do certain tools to clear that. Another long-winded answer, but I remember your original question. I'll take people on a tangent, but I promise I'm gonna bring you back.
Hey, I love it. Because you're still soaking up information. You're still learning on those tangents. So that's
we gonna ride. You gotta put your seatbelt on. It's like the magic school bus. Like we going. Okay, well let's get back to where we were at though. So your initial question was, do I believe that spirit and energy are the same? And what I was explaining is that once you realize that everything really truly is energy, everything is a vibrational frequency, which means it's energy. Your emotions, people hear this quote all the time, is energy in motion. That's why it is an emotion. Everything has to start with some form of energy. And they say like matter is people don't die. So now we're talking about spirit, right? Because what are we? We are spirit stuck inside this little flesh, carbon-based suit. I'm gonna just
I heard it said as we are spiritual beings living a physical experience.
Correct. So then you say, well, what is spirit? So spirit was, we are all from the same essence of source, spirit, what have you. And then for whatever reasons, a sliver of that source pulls off from itself and then comes down into this third dimensional world in our little spacesuits. Something I got to clarify. It's on my heart to say it. I've been hearing this theme so much in the last couple weeks. And I'm just like, come on, stop, y'all. People so afraid of the number 6 and 666 and
oh my God.
like 666 is just proof that we are spiritual beings. We are light, L-I-G-H-T beings, right? Because God is love and love and light. So that's light. We are a light being that our essence has been put into this little suit. This little suit that we're in, this little human being that we become, has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons, makes carbon. We are this is the fact that we have to die, that these suits that we're in have to go through entropy, and they have to age and age and wrinkle and has a shelf life in which it dies, is because we are carbon based. So when you are carbon based, you have it has a natural cycle that it dies. It doesn't last forever. So the 666 mark of the beast is merely just saying that the beast is that we are light is now stuck inside of this physical suit, which is a carbon based suit, which means that this suit, you can't go with it. Like people talk about the rapture or whatever, like, no, this suit ain't going nowhere because your light is limitless. So this suit just helps you to live on this particular planet that is bound by gravity. You need oxygen and other elements and minerals for this suit to have longevity. So I don't know. I always get tripped up with people like so afraid of death. And I'm like, but what are you afraid of? Like, if you truly believe, especially from the religious land, you truly believe that you're from God and source and you're this limitless being, then what fear would you have of death? You would know that your soul lives on. So
they're not all taught that. A lot of religions do not give that message, just from, growing up in my family's background was Baptist, but I went to Catholic school for a lot of my, before I went to high school. Like, that's all I did. And so from a Christianity, Catholicism, it's like, heaven, hell, that's it. Purgatory, and that's because they still trying to figure out whether you qualify to get in one or the other. Like, it's so, and I try to keep that in mind, and not, because just from those experiences, I've, kind of formed my own, of course, you form your own opinions about certain belief systems and that type of thing, but I've always wanted to be open because I think there's a little bit of truth in everyone, so.
Yeah. What's funny about that is my mom, like, I remember when I was little, she was reading the Bible, and we had like some door-to-door, I don't know who they were, that like came to the house one time. One of the times we lived with an abusive boyfriend, and I remember her talking with them. I remember when she met my stepdad, he was Catholic, and he always wore like this thick, like Cuban gold chain with a Jesus, with the thorns on it emblem. He grew up Catholic, Irish and Italian from New York. Hello. So when he met my mom and they had my baby brother, Dante, they were talking, okay, well, he's going to be baptized. So I was baptized Catholic. I'm looking over there because I got a picture up there on the wall. God, I think I was like 9 or 10, but it was just funny to me and my older brother and sister because we're not babies, right? So Dante's getting baptized or whatever, and they're doing the ashes on the forehead, which has its own symbolism, right? So you're doing ashes on a forehead. Well, this is your third eye.
Right.
So what you're really symbolizing is that you are basically saying death to your third eye, death to your own access to knowledge of higher power. You were going to put these ashes on your forehead so that we're killing your third eye and ability to tap into the divine so that you put all your power and energy into us. Those that we tell you have been deputized to be your middleman between you and source. And so I just always find it funny because we were just laughing. Like we had our head tilted sideways and they pouring water on our head and we're like smiling like, we're getting baptized. And then and very quickly, like as soon as we joined that church, like my stepdad was like, man, they be preaching some weird, like they on some stuff. Like he didn't like that they were trying to correlate certain things like TV shows with the lessons. He was like, this ain't it. And then we joined, right by our house was a Lutheran church. And I remember us going in and having to talk to the pastor, I guess is what they're called there. I don't know. And, but they gave my family it was like a car notebook. Like back in the day when you would get a car, like car insurance or car, you got like a little notebook. You had to like pay your bill and send it off with the check each month. And they kind of gave one of those books to my parents. And it was
for
like
tithe?
Suggested tithes. Like, okay, on this Sunday, y'all going to give $50. And then the next Sunday, y'all going to give $150. And they like, we poor. But we went a few times. We did the little, get the body of Christ and the little.
The bread and water.
Feel special. I'm eating this little nasty cracker.
Drinking this Welch's grape juice.
Oh, get on your knees and pray like this. And I'm like, this is weird. And then that was it. Like after that was it. We did that very briefly. And then of course I went away to college, and that's where you get people who are like the radical, like you must pray like this and standing outside of the nightclub, like repent. You must pray. And Jesus said, pray like this. And I was always like, yeah, but what if you cool with God already? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't know, like the stories y'all are telling me, like Sodom and Gomorrah and all this other stuff, to me, it sounds like there's certain people who were already like living how they supposed to, but there was just a small group who really wasn't picking up what was being thrown down. So God had to come down in a bunch of different ways through different people to like give the message in a way he thought those people would get it. And then they didn't. And then he was like, all right, scrap all y'all over here, you just keep living foul and you can't figure it out. So I'm just going to have to scrap it and start all over again. I was like, so what if you were cool with him off rip? Blasphemous. I was like, me and God, like God backwards is dog. Like, that's my dog. Like, we straight. And they're like, blasphemous. You're going to hell and damnation. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't get it. And then it was 3 years after, 3 years after I graduated college, and then I moved and was closer to my ex and his family, that I became a Southern Baptist. And I'm trying to figure out what happened to my grandmother. I joined their church after that spiritual awakening experience. I had to confess with my mouth that Jesus died and was resurrected for my sins, because that's the Southern Baptist way.
Oh yeah, I remember it vividly.
I am the only white girl in an all-black Southern Baptist church, like getting up at 7 a.m. because I preferred to go in the early morning with the old heads and the elders, and then do the Sunday church school, and then I'm done by 11:30. Everybody else was coming to the 11:30, and then you there all day, and I had my arm on the back of the pew, and I was tapping my head, and I was like, yeah, we got this today. But I don't know the feeling. I get all the fellowship, I get all that, but I was really looking for the word, and who could tell me what the word meant, and where was my Meemaw, and will I ever see her again? And the more that I kept immersing myself in the Southern Baptist indoctrination and hearing and seeing things that were not in alignment with what I was reading in the Bible, like what y'all are saying at your mouth, like sounds good. Oh, I hope I had a witness. Oh, I hope y'all pick it up when you get in the parking lot. And I'm like, I picked it up before I got in the parking lot, but what you're saying is not in alignment with what you are claiming is Christ-like. So
especially Monday through Saturday,
Well, Wednesday night we had the Sunday church school. That's when the pastor would teach the Sunday school teachers. And I would go to that also. I wasn't a Sunday school teacher, but I was like, it was my ex's, the church was born out of his grandmother's house.
Okay.
And then it became this bigger church, and I helped them with their website and all this other stuff. So I kind of, based off of who I was, it was just kind of like, oh, she can get the free pass. Christy's the cool one, blah, blah, woo, whatever. But it was just too many things that I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And then so I was probably heavily involved for a year. I like sped through, like crash course, right? I sped through the Southern Baptist, and I was like, some things just ain't right. And then when you start researching, like, I'm like, why do you use the word doctrine? Why is it a doctrine? I was always a word person, right? So then you start getting to the root of certain words, and you're like, oh, they use that terminology because they feed into this larger group, or they report into, or they pay dues to this larger organization. And it's like, okay, I get it. And there was one night, probably a year after I stopped going, that my pastor had hit me up. He wanted me to help make a website for a theological seminary college. And so I just went to rapping with him. And this was right before the second time I had my spiritual awakening. So I was already tapped into, a little bit. And I brought my Bible with me, and I was like, okay, I'm here with you talking about this. I was like, but I have questions. Like, if I was such a part of this church, like, how come the deacon of my ward never hit me up when I stopped coming to ask me, how am I doing, et cetera, et cetera? If y'all about fellowship, how come this didn't happen? How come that didn't happen? So I was questioning him, and he was just like, hold on now, are you trying to say that you've lost your faith? And I'm like, no. See, I didn't grow up in the church, so I don't feel comfortable challenging a deacon or anyone who's been up in the ranks all their life. I was like, but just certain things just ain't resonating with me, and it just doesn't make any sense. And we're going to verse for verse and different things. And eventually he just says, he's like, are you straying from the word? And as you can see, I'm very vocal, right? So I'm like squinting my face like this. And I'm like, what are you talking? I was like, no. And he's like, Christy. And he's a big old, like 330-pound dude from Mississippi, big presence. And he's like, Christy, I swear, y'all just had he's like, you just had a cross in the middle of your forehead. Blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, that was an outward expression. So obviously that's a sign for you to know that the word dwells in me and that I'm good. Like, you don't have to convince me to come back to Christ or nothing like that. Like, I've got the word. I'm just confused about how the word that I'm reading is different from the word that y'all are spitting out of your mouth and the lessons you're teaching some people. Not always, but sometimes you guys are a little off base. Like, how can you sit here and be making fun of people with a certain lifestyle, like homosexuality, but in the same breath calling them sugar booty and all this other stuff? But in the same breath, you're like, if anyone is led to our church, our doors are open for them. That doesn't align. That doesn't align with me. So then eventually I think it's Matthew 24, verse 5. Don't quote me on that, but it's definitely Matthew 24. But it basically, in there, it was like the Pharisees were challenging Jesus. I'm like, who the heck do you think you are? That's not the verses. I'm just,
paraphrase.
Paraphrasing. But he's just basically like, who do you are? Like, who do you think you are? Like, you coming over here, you turn water into wine, you healing people and stuff. Like, who do you claim that you are? And he was like, I'm only, in the verse, like, Jesus was basically saying, like, I'm only here for those who are sick, for those who need comforting, etc. So he's basically saying, like, I came from a higher dimension and came down here to show y'all how to live for those who needed the gospel. Yeah. Everybody didn't need it. And when I quoted that to my pastor, he's like, he closes his Bible, he picks it up. He's like, you're right. This book was written for a particular group of people. And he's like, and for those people, that's who it was written for. And I'm like, yeah, but we got to do this and we got to do that. And then he was like done. He was like, all right, come on. We got to go. We've been talking. It's getting late at night. And as we left the church, there was a sign by the door to his office, and it had a tree, and it said something like from the same roots spring multiple paths to the same destination, or something like that. And I was just like, that right there. See, how can you all say that this person over here who believes this is wrong and this one over here is wrong, when all paths can lead to the same conclusion. And you said that early on in this conversation, right? That, you know, there's a little bit of truths to all the different religious beliefs or disciplines. And there is a common thread that kind of weaves them all together. Now, some of them are built with extra limbs of the tree that are designed to take you off course and take you off in this other direction. But at the end of the day, if you can synthesize and you can kind of quickly, kind of like I had the gift to do, kind of get through it and say, okay, this stuff over here is marble, jarble, whatever. But here, right here, there's that thread that if you pull and follow that thread, that'll take you across almost every religious belief or spiritual belief. And there's just these core tenets and truths that is like, nobody can deny that. Like, you just can't.
Exactly.
And then when your physical life, when the things that happen to you in your life start showcasing that, right? You start getting these signs and synchronicities and serendipities. And for me, those 2 awakening experiences that then led to different people coming into my life just at the right nick of time when I'm like, but I don't understand this piece. Oh, look, here's a 33rd degree Mason, former Air Force physician who can impart with you on certain things. And then they put me on to like the Doggone tribe and Sirius and information about blood types. And it's just like this beautiful symphony or weaving of threads of knowledge and information that when you have your own tapestry that's being built and being weaved, then you start to there's just certain core truths that you're like, nobody can ever deny. Like, that was not crazy. And what's really cool is, like, in recent times, other people that are along with me, like I was just in California for 3 weeks and just driving in the car, different people that are with me. And I'm like, yeah, I keep seeing repeat numbers. And they're in the car with me and they're talking about a subject, right? They're talking about whatever, a relationship, and I'm giving them advice. And the repeat numbers are like, bop, bop, like a car drives by, then a car behind that one, then a car next to that one, then a car next to that one, then another car. And they're like, what is going on? This is crazy. I'm like, welcome to my world. So you don't get the signs. Don't ask for them if you don't want them. But when you get them, you better listen and pay attention. And it just becomes comical. Like after a while, you just like start laughing, and you're like, why do I even operate in a frequency of fear, a frequency of worry, a frequency of calculating and plotting everything out and trying to figure it all out? Like, you've had so many times where you tapped into the divine, like you just going with the flow, and everything just kind of like comes as you need it without you even having to stress about it. But that's the world we live in. It's designed intentionally to knock you off of that higher frequency and to put you in states of survival. If you're in survival mode, if your 5 basic needs, it's called
Maslow's hierarchy.
Girl, you already know. If you
I already have an episode planned on it. So the fact that you were already touching about those needs and security is,
I said, tune in next week, folks. But if your basic needs are not met off of that pyramid, you cannot be of a higher conscience. It's 5. There's 5 of them that are to be met. And if you overlay that with your chakras, and when you ready to do that episode, girl, you go ahead and do it. But you got the Maslow's in the bottom, the base of the pyramid is all about survival, right? And so you can even associate that with chakras. You got your 5. You got your root, your sacral, your solar plexus, that's 3. You got your heart, that's 4. And your throat, which is your ability to speak up and speak your truth, is 5. If these 5 needs are not met, if those 5 lower chakras are suppressed, especially the first 3, the survival ones, then you're never going to be able to activate and open your third eye. And you ain't ever, your brow chakra, and you ain't ever going to be able to open up your crown chakra and truly be enlightened.
So when you lay when you're talking about putting the chakras on top of the Maslow, where do the top 2? Where does the eye and the crown come in? Because you said the 5. There's 5.
So technically, there's not 7 chakras, but there's 7 main chakras of the chakra system. My point is, Maslow's hierarchy of needs are basically talking about basic needs needing to be met. And so when you're looking at a chakra system, they really talk about for the chakra overlay, it's your first the 3 lower chakras. I hate doing it on my chest because it ain't just, it's your 3 lower chakras. So it's your root, your red, your sacral orange, and your solar plexus yellow. Those 3 are truly your survival chakras.
Okay.
You could overlay the 5 hierarchy of needs over those 3 chakras.
Okay.
What I was just saying, and it came to me out of nowhere, I've never even thought of like put the 5 with the 5 chakras. Because if your 3 lower chakras are clear and you're supported, and that's where all these abuses come from, right? Mm-hmm. Sexual abuse, that's going to shut down your sacral chakra, but then it's also going to suppress your root chakra because now you have no sense of security. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, lots of sexual abuse that has occurred, even in my own family line. Different family members have had their experiences, and I can just see how that affected their life, the whole trajectory of their life, even into plaguing them into early death. So if you can never overcome those traumas, and which is why we stigmatize mental health, because they don't want people to heal the traumas. They want people to try to forget them, suppress them, don't talk about them, don't uncover them, don't unpack them, don't clear them, don't do forgiveness, just suppress it and forget it. It never goes away. Energy cannot be, it says energy can't be created nor destroyed. It just gets transferred and transmuted into a different way. So you can either take that same energy, if you're suppressing it, it still lives there and it's still affecting your organs, it's still affecting your physical health, and it's still affecting, and then all of that affects your energetic field of your body. And your energetic field is what emits a frequency out to other people. So
your aura.
Yeah, that's your aura. And your aura is really that's really your fingerprint. That's really your blueprint. That's really your business card. Mm-hmm. People are going to feel your energy before they see you. Yeah, you could, if you look decent, you could get away with certain things. If you talk a good game, you could get away with certain things. But energy doesn't lie.
Absolutely. Like just how you and I are communicating today. Like if you hadn't given out a certain aura, just in you just being in these groups, I wouldn't have been able to connect with that enough to reach out. And then if you didn't get some kind of vibe from reading my email or reading my DM, you wouldn't have been like, okay, I'm down with this. I'm open to this, so it's all about, and it passes through everything. Electronically, you and I have never met physically, anything like that. So it doesn't matter, that's, it's all about that energy, connecting and touching and mixing, and it's beautiful.
Yep, it's energy signature. And I think that was one of the questions you had that I think is really important to answer, because I've been learning some tough lessons in that recently. You think you got it? Look, this earth, us being here is a playground to have different experiences and learn different things, right? I don't know if anyone has seen the movie City of Angels with, what's that dude's name?
Nicolas Cage.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I've seen it.
And Meg Ryan. I wanted to say Keanu Reeves. I'm like, Keanu Reeves ain't in everything, Christy.
Even though he should be.
He should be. That's my brother. Like, we should get married. I wish, man, baby, I'm getting red. But in that movie, you see that they're all like, it gives you a different definition of angels, right? They all wearing all black. So it's trying to let people know, like, black is not negative and bad. Like, stop with all that crap. But they are always on a beach. They're always looking at the sunrise, but they can't feel it. They can only feel it, and they can only go in the water and experience the water splashing on their face. They can only feel what love actually is if they choose to fall into this construct of time. So my thing is, like, man fell into sin. I'm like, man, that's a sine wave. Like, we learned in calculus, sin, S-I-N, there's sine, cosine, and tangent. So S-I-N is the shorthand for the word sine for sine wave. So basically means that you chose to fall into a lower frequency. When you're in the cosmos, that's a super fast frequency. The waves are super fast. When you start coming down to lower dimensions, like Earth operates in the 3rd dimension, then the waves are slower. So you chose, man fell down into a sine wave or into sin. to operate at a lower frequency so that you can feel things more, so you can experience things more. And I love that movie. I try to tell everybody to watch it because that's the concept of it. Like, he fell in love with Meg Ryan, and he chose, he's like, they're like, you can't come back. Like, his little homeboy was like, once you fall, like, you can't come back. And he's like, yeah, I know. It was worth it to him that much to go holler at this chick. Like, oh, holler at me, baby. What kind of love is that? But he also met his homeboy who was also a fallen angel, who the older dude who had the kids. He got married and had kids, and he's swimming in the pool and blowing the water out of his mouth and stuff. And he's just like, I would never trade it for anything. Look at these children that I have. And look at what I was able to do. And even just him, like, experiencing the taste of fruit, even getting hit by a car. Like, the first thing that happened to him, boom, he got hit by a car. And he's just like, the hell was that? Like, you gotta learn how to operate in this frequency. And so I really love that movie because it kind of epitomizes, what it means to be in this world and have these experiences, that you get to feel these things, you get to feel these emotions, you get to know what it's like to be in love with someone, to care for someone else. And it's just a different, you don't have, if you come from that, if you are love and light, you don't feel the love and light because you already are that. So you have to be reduced to less than that, to be lower than that, so you can feel what that warmth feels like. So you can feel the warm and fuzzies inside of you of what love feels like. So that's really all that it is you coming here to have you're a spiritual or light being that's here having a physical experience, which is true. So now it comes into the subject of, okay, so we come here, we forget who we are and where we're from. Once we come out of that womb and we come out, we like, oh, damn. Like,
what the hell is this?
And you have to learn everything from starting from the bottom. Now we here, right? Literally, like, you can't feed yourself. You can't, all you know is, like, if I cry, someone might come, whatever, how your experiences are. So you have all that. And then in this lifetime, then you get exposed to different, not necessarily tests, but you get exposed to different experiences for you to grow and mature and to become tapped back into who I am and where I'm from. And then more importantly, for many of us, why we're here. Because a lot of us didn't just come here to have an experience. We came here, particularly in this lifetime, because there's some things that have been going on down here in this dimension. And we were like, hold up, wait a minute, y'all doing some flaw stuff down there. So I think I'm strong enough and got trained enough that if I came down there, I could quickly figure back out who I am and where I'm from and tap back into that knowledge to help all these other people who have become enslaved in this planet to be liberated and freed and realize that they're from source too and not have to be bound by what's going on here. And so one of your questions you had in the email was like, how do you use discernment or decide like who you can trust or what spiritual teachers you tap into?
Now I wanna save that question because we gotta have a part 2. Okay.
That's right. Part 2, baby, because that is so to tease on that is probably one of the biggest lessons a lot of people will get tripped up on, and that ties into fine-tuning your intuition, your internal GPS, and then being in alignment with that and trusting that. And different things can take that off course and can down to the foods that you eat can trip up and make you think it's your intuition or your gut feelings, but it ain't. That's the food that you ate giving you some gas or something like that, or that's not your intuition. Or you get so dependent on signs, seeing signs as like proof and validation that this is something you can trust, but that's a falsity, that's lies. And so once you start to truly trust your intuition, and the reason I got on that is we were talking about energy, and the energy doesn't lie, and that's correct. A lot of people verbally sound good, musically sound good, look good, got the right things on, saying the right things, using the right words that pull you in. But once you immersed in that and you realize the frequent, they were faking the funk, and this funk is funky. How do you get yourself? The real true thing, I think, is how to navigate around that. Once you recognize it, how do you diplomatically and professionally get yourself out of that entanglement
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you clear yourself from that entanglement? Just because you could ignore someone, or you could be like, oh, they're I'm gonna leave them alone. There's still an energetic entanglement. So then it's learning how to cut those ties as well, and then truly liberating yourself from being entangled in some funkiness.
Okay. So I gotta say, if possible, will you do the Maslow episode with me? Like, we could tie that into
Yeah.
this. Okay, so
Girl, yes.
okay. So I will definitely get with you so we can schedule part 2.
Perfect.
And but man, you have, oh my goodness, like you covered almost every question I asked. Like, I just appreciate you so much for just sharing your knowledge. And one of the other things, and I'll send you another email for our part 2. But
Okay.
one of the things I would like you to think about is what spiritual things do we need to should we find out about ourselves,
Gotcha.
like, so that way we can compare notes. Because like I've found, like, I did a research in a couple different things, and so
Uh-huh.
since you're knowledgeable about this, I want to talk to you about what I found, and maybe you can shed light and kind of explain things for me. So
Sure. Yeah. I only know what I know, but I have a really great gift of, a lot of people just like give me something to look up, and I'm like, I don't know nothing about that, but something takes over my hands. And when I'm on this keyboard, it's like I'm writing a symphony, and that I'm just able to find different research and kind of somehow give them the keys back that they're like, yeah, that's it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't know, I just read this on this or watched this on that. So, and then kind of piece it together. So I feel that energy and synergy between us, so we gonna have so much fun.
oh yes, definitely. And you know what? It helps because, like me personally in my life, I don't have too many people that I can have conversations like this with.
Uh-huh.
It's either we're not on the same vibration, or they just don't care. They have other beliefs and they're not into this kind of thing. So being able to tap in with somebody that's like-minded is so important. And I definitely want to feed that. So thank you so much. And I will definitely be in touch with you soon so we can schedule part 2.
You are welcome, and I look forward to hanging with you guys again.
That's enough game for now. Follow Queen Doja on Facebook and Instagram at The Script Podcast, online at thescriptpodcast.com, and YouTube at rebrandly/thescriptpodcast.com. Stay awesome, blessed, and always on script.